Good morning and welcome back, ladies, gents and Pikachus. I have some good news for you, or so it would seem. Yes, the forces of Allah, the evil insurgents that have been attacking the West and Israel, they have asked for an unconditional ceasefire. So peace is on the horizon is what we will hear in the news. But is this legitimate? Can we trust these guys with their ceasefire? I am your host, Daily Corvid. Let's get started. So after over a year of war, I think it's 366 days, of total bombardment and attack from the Israelis in counter-attack for what happened last October, the forces of Allah have finally relented, or so it seems, and they wish to fashion a ceasefire. They have asked for an unconditional, continuing ceasefire, and now there is international pressure on Israel to back off from their campaign and to call it quits, leave these guys alone. They want a ceasefire, they want peace now. So I think, is it worth considering that these guys actually want a ceasefire? Or, as I think, is this further manipulation and scheming in order that they can end up being the victors in this war? Let's look at some of their scripture to see if we can figure that out. So I've made a list of some of the verses from the Quran which would tell us what this really means. And I would like to begin by saying they have what's called a holy period. They have 4 holy months in the year. And Allah commands them that during these 4 holy months, they are not to fight. They are to back off and collect their wits. And then at the celebration at the end of the holy month, then they are to go to war. When are these holy months? Well, we know from reading this, the Quran of the Muslims, their holy months are November, December, January and February, and then at the end of March is the start of their war season. So isn't it just a coincidence, now that they've been roundly beaten, that they want to ask for a ceasefire just at the beginning of their holy period? But remember, they have still to give back the remaining hostages that they haven't already disposed of, plus they are being rather heavily beaten. So it is in their interest, strategically and in their religion, to ask for a ceasefire now, an unconditional ceasefire, and to convince the world that they have learnt their lesson, that they're going to back off. But then we think, well, what does their scripture say? Let's read through some of it. Verse 85 of Al Imran says, "If anyone desires a faith other than that of Islam and surrender to Allah, it shall never be accepted. They shall burn forever in fire." Verse 54 says, "And the kuffar, the non-believers, plot and plan against Allah, but Allah schemed against them, because Allah is the greatest of all schemers." So we can see here, A, they are not going to back off, because the reason they brought this war to Israel in the first place is because they are trying to get rid of those who don't have a faith in Islam. If anyone desires a faith other than Islam, surrender to Allah, it shall never be accepted. They shall burn forever in the fire. Now we know from our reading of this book, when it says they shall burn forever in the fire, the route they are taking to this fire to burn forever is actually through the jihad of Muslim human beings. It's not Allah that's going to do this. It is Muslims, and that is why they brought this war. Then in 54, "The kuffar plotted and planned, and Allah schemed against them. But Allah is the greatest of schemers." Now, couldn't you quite happily say that this is a scheme, considering the last 15 ceasefires that I looked up on Google that have been proposed by Hamas, Hezbollah, the forces of Allah, have been broken? What that means is they asked for the ceasefire was granted to them, and then whilst everyone's back was turned, they attacked and killed more Jews, took more hostages. Wouldn't it make sense, now that they're being so roundly beaten, in considering of these verses, and the fact that it's their holy month is starting, that this will be another one of Allah's schemes? This will be another scheme of the Islam worshippers to kill more Jews. Al-Maida, "The punishment for those who would oppose Allah and his messenger, who have mighty struggle against him and do make mischief, is execution, the cutting off of hands and feet, and exile from their land, to go out in disgrace. Now this is referring to, or this is what Muslims will refer to, when they claim that Palestine, and actually Israel as a whole, belongs to the Arabs, and that the Jews shouldn't be there. They want to exile the Jews from their land and chase them out in disgrace. And then we know from other verses in the Quran, once they have been chased out, because Allah owns East and West, the entire world is the bounty of Allah, the Muslims in their jihad will continually chase the Jews from country to country, and then the culmination of that chase will be when the rocks and the trees shall give away the positions of the Jews to the Muslims, apart from the Garhad tree. Apparently this Garhad tree is going to save the Jews. But every other type of tree and rock will say, "O Muslim, a Jew hides over here, come and slay him." That's what they believe. But it gets worse. Al-Ma'idah 51. "O ye Muslim, take not a Jew or a Christian for a friend or protector. They are friends of each other. Allah guideth them not, nor are they your ally." So how can you say you want a ceasefire against someone and also believe this, where Allah is specifically telling you in no uncertain terms, O Muslims, "O ye Muslim, take not Jews nor Christians as friends or protectors"? So wouldn't it be the Jews protecting you if they drew back and gave you the ceasefire that you had asked for? Allah guideth them not, nor their ally. So if you ally with those guys because they give you your ceasefire, Allah won't guide you anymore. I don't think they're going to do this ceasefire. I think it's very obvious this is a strategic ploy. Right after they had their meeting with Russia, like their meeting with Russia was last week, they met with Putin, and Putin's not stupid. He would have said, why don't you just ask for a ceasefire, give yourself some time to regroup, build up some more supplies, we'll send you some more weapons, says Putin. Then at the end of your holy month, at the beginning of March, you can restart your campaign. Just make up some other excuse, just say they bombed you or they killed some babies, or make up something, a false accusation, which we know they use. Al-Ma'idah, verse 105. "O ye Muslim, guard your souls if you would follow Allah's cause. None can harm you from those who did go astray." So we know Allah's cause is the jihad, where they flood into every country in the world and try to overtake those countries so they can install an Islamic government. An'am 45 says, "Of these wrongdoers," speaking of the Christians and the Jews, "the last remnant shall be cut off from life. Praise be to Allah, the owner of the world in this." So what do you think that means? In relation to their asking for a ceasefire, guard your souls if you would follow Allah's cause. So that's saying, don't throw yourself at death if you're trying to do the jihad unless it will win for you. And if you follow this command, none can harm you from those who did go astray from Allah. So that's saying the Jews and Christians, they can't harm you as long as you do what Allah's telling you. 110. "We shall turn confusion to their hearts and their eyes, because they did refuse to bow to Allah. To such deceit let their hearts incline to it, who do not have faith in Allah and his final day of judgment." So that for me conclusively says what is in the minds of these Muslims, these terrorists, when they propose this fake ceasefire. Because you've got to keep in mind, they have been fighting every single day for 366 days, and each time a ceasefire has been proposed to them in the past, they have refused it, they have denied it. They've shown no willingness for any peace right up until now. But we know from the Israeli strikes in Lebanon and the proposed strikes in future for Syria, and the fact that their weapons, the Islam worshippers' weapons have been completely depleted, they currently have no strike power. So wouldn't this make a perfect opportunity for a reprieve, calling for a ceasefire, when they have no weapons, their backs are against the wall, Israel are right on top of them and winning every single battle. It's the beginning of their holy month, and now Russia are agreeing to send them some more weapons, but it's going to take some time for those weapons to arrive. Let's go over that last verse again. Anam 110 to 113. We shall turn confusion to their hearts and their eyes, because they did refuse to bow to Allah. So what do you think Allah is saying here when he says to the Muslims, we shall turn confusion to their hearts and their eyes? Confusion to their eyes is visual trickery. Confusion to their hearts is to say, we don't want to fight you anymore, guys. We're giving up. We want a ceasefire. Notice they didn't ask for a complete peace. They're not asking for the end of the war. They're asking for a temporary ceasefire. And they have just worded it in such a way that the general public will not see this. Although my supposition is that the Israelis are not as stupid as most people watching this on their TV. And they will not buy into this false narrative that Islam has suddenly turned a new leaf and now desires peace. They don't desire peace. To such deceit, let their hearts incline to it, who do not have faith in Allah and his day of judgment. Now, this is the important bit. We know from reading this, and from Reliance of the Traveller, the day of judgment cannot be reached while Christians and Jews still survive upon the earth. The day of judgment can only be reached once the Muslims have killed all the Christians and Jews, and Islam spans the entire world. So, think about it. If their ceasefire buys them 4 months of recovery time, 4 months of building up new weapons, 4 months of getting themselves back into position, and then the time when the ceasefire will end in March is the beginning of their war season and the end of their holy period, wouldn't it make more sense that this ceasefire is actually fraudulent and they are using the veneer of a ceasefire and a want for peace as a cover to rebuild their forces in order that they can spring another attack at the end of March next year? And that is exactly what I think will happen. Not just from this, the evidence of the Quran and politics that we see today, but also I have predicted in the past, many, many months ago, before the war even started, that this exact thing would happen, and this would be the time that it would happen, and that it would end on March the 25th, when there would be a massive resumption of hostilities. But I'll make you the judge of that. You make your own mind up on whether Islam is truly looking for a ceasefire for the sake of peace, or whether they are turning confusion to our hearts and eyes because we refuse to bow to Allah and keeping the commandments to Allah, that they shall wipe out every Christian and Jew and follow on and carry on with their holy jihad against the rest of the species. I'll leave it in your capable hands. So that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed that and you learned something. God bless you all, and I'll see you lovely people in the next one. Bye now. And just remember, I always say, judge people by what they do, not by what they say they're going to do. And if we judge Hamas on what they do, it is breaking ceasefires. So anyway, that's all for now. God bless you all. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now. Bye.